Well, good afternoon. Here we are back again. Can you believe it? This is already lecture number 12. That means we're finishing our material in Unit 6. How sad. But it's a very interesting unit, and I hope you listened carefully to the lecture in this particular unit. I'm sure you remember it's about customs around the world. And that's what you see in front of us here. Before you listen, this is what you had a chance to look at. And I'm sure you can identify some of these items now. You recognize there at the top, you recognize people bowing to each other. And we see at the bottom people using chopsticks. And then we see here a little child kissing his mother. All about subjects that are in the lecture, different customs, how they differ. Here are some of the vocabulary that we had in the lecture. Remember chopsticks, used for eating. Hug, greeting a person. Not common in the United States, but of course in places like Russia, places like Latin America, it's very common. Even here, it is common to greet people you know well with a hug. We have then very important misunderstanding. And that's the whole point of our lecture, isn't it? That if you have different customs and people meet, there can be misunderstandings. And you remember the misunderstanding at the beginning of this lecture about Consuela, who misunderstood the envelope? Well, misunderstandings often occur because we don't know the customs of other countries. We heard about title, and you may remember in the lecture that the Koreans are very concerned about titles. They address people as, let's say, teacher Kim, or engineer Lou, and so on. Other places are also title conscious. I think probably the Arab world is rather title conscious as well, much more so than the United States. Of course, Germany more than England. So countries vary in their concern with titles. Utensils, that was one section of the lecture. You remember about in Asia they use chopsticks. That's a different type of utensil from Europe and America, where people use knives and forks and spoons. Together we usually call them silverware. And then we have here at the end about variation, a change, variation. We can see a variation from one place to another. The verbs about bowing, as in Japan, you bow when you meet someone. The more you bow, the more respect you show. The person who is more important bows less. The person who is less important bows more, okay? So they sort of even each other out. Illustrate means to give a picture. And in our unit, in this passage, we had various illustrations of customs. We'll be looking at those in a minute. And then our adjectives. Appropriate. Appropriate means what is suitable. Now, what we learned in this lecture is, because of customs, what is appropriate in one country may not be appropriate in another. So if you go to France and you meet a friend, it's very appropriate to kiss him, but don't do this in America. This probably won't go over very well. What's appropriate is what is customary. So appropriate behavior is customary behavior. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. If you do the wrong thing, you are embarrassed. It's embarrassing. So embarrassing means you feel bad, you did something wrong. And so if you go to a country you don't know the customs, you might feel embarrassed. You do the wrong thing. And finally, the last one, insulted. Insulted, also feeling bad, but you feel the person intentionally did something wrong. Now, this is a problem in the world. Many times we don't mean to disrespect other traditions, but if we don't know, people may think that we do, and they will be insulted. So if I go to Japan, I walk into the house without taking off my shoes, they may be insulted. They may feel that I purposely didn't do it. So observing customs is very important. We don't want to insult people. Now, the strategy that we had in this passage about note-taking was taking notes on differences. You see this here about strategy? And when we take notes on differences, we're going to put one thing on one side and one on the other. Now, they point out to you that the following sentence is from the lecture. In the United States, greetings often involve some sort of touching. On the other hand, people from most... So when you hear on the other hand, we know we're going to show a difference. They are different. Some other indications we'll be looking at later. Here are some sample notes for this sentence. Notice the use of indenting, keywords, and abbreviations. Greetings, U.S. involve touching. Asia, not comf touching. Okay, we'll be looking at more of this later. Similarities, the Japanese, like many other people in Asia, give gifts often. Now here they put Jap plus. You see the plus there to indicate also. You can also put a line to indicate it's the same. You can put them one above the other to show they're similar. Similarities, differences. Remember, we're going to look at that in our next lecture, which is about note-taking, how important it is to organize your notes so they are graphic. Now, they indicate here some phrases we use a lot to indicate differences. On the other hand, in contrast, however, while. All of these show that there's a difference. For similarities, similar to, also, like. So these are words we hear. When we hear them, they cue us to know that we're showing similarity or showing difference. Now, as an exercise in the book, they taking notes on similarities and differences. I did this for you, but let's go through this to see how you might have gone about doing this. Notice you hear a sentence such as this. Maybe you've noticed that many American people use people's first names very freely, even if they've just met someone. Some people even call their bosses by their first names. In contrast, people in most other cultures are more formal. Now notice that we have stated there, AMs, meaning Americans, equal, comfortable, using first names. And here we have additional information, just met, and bosses. So we use them both if you meet someone and bosses. Notice I put the plus there to show these are similar. That's one way to indicate similarities. Other cultures, more formal. Notice that's separated. That shows that it's different. Let's look at number 2. In Egypt, you should leave some food on your plate at the end of a meal. However, Bolivians expect visitors to eat everything on their plates. Now, already supplied for you is Egypt, leave food on plate. Bolivia, equal, eat everything on plate. So again, we put them separate to show that they are different. Number 3, Bolivians expect visitors to eat everything on their plates, and Americans also think that a clean plate means you are satisfied with food. Now notice here we use something different. Bolivian, eat everything on plate, plus American, and then we have our dittos. That shows it's the same. Ditto, satisfied. It means you are satisfied. Number 4, many Japanese people bow when they greet each other, while people from Thailand prefer to hold their hands in a prayer position. This is in English, say prayer, we mean holding your hands like this. So, again, this is showing differences. Notice number 4, Thais hold hands in prayer position. You heard there, many Japanese bow when they greet. Thais. Notice separated to show there's a difference. Thais hold hands in prayer position. Number 5, in the United States, greetings often involve some sort of touching, such as a handshake, a hug, or a kiss, if the people know each other very well. And most Western countries are similar to the United States in this way. So notice we have there U.S., West countries, greeting. I put a wavy line to show with touch. For example, handshake, hug, kiss. And then I put there if know well for kiss. So notice both U.S. and Western. Why? Because we heard similar. Similar, likewise, also, in the same way. These are indications of similarity. You can put a plus, you can put them beside each other to show that they are the same. Now that's about strategies. In the next lecture, we'll look at note-taking in general and the strategies. But here, notice the emphasis was on similarities and differences. Now, you listened to the lecture. Maybe you've looked at these notes already. But here is an example of notes you could have taken on this lecture. What was the topic? Cultural rules. We could call them customs. Introduction is a story. Consuela. I put Mex. For me, that's enough to know Mexican. Arrow to New York. Job at factory. Okay, from this we know Consuela. Okay, went from Mexico to New York, got a job at a factory, received red env. For me, that's envelope. Plus $50, meaning $50 from her boss from Taiwan. Shocked. She was really surprised. Not in a good way. But equals Chinese New Year custom. So this is the basic story, which you'll hear again next week. But notice we put it into basic words. Notice the idea. And then we come to our actual lecture. Now the lecturer in the lecture mentioned that there are 4 areas. Greetings, use of names, use of how we eat, and about gift giving. So you had that clue. So very nicely now, number 1 is greetings. A, U.S. and West countries, Western, meaning European countries, with touch, handshake, hug or kiss, and beside kiss I put if, know, well. Not common, but it might be, especially in France. And that's B, in France, kissing, usual. C, Asia, touch, not comfortable, not common, not usual. Number 1, in Japan, bow. 2, tie, hands in prayer position. Then we come to the second area of the lecture, use of names and titles. I hope you understand the difference between a name and a title. A name is what you've been called. Let's say someone is named Joseph Johnson, that's his name, but his title might be Mr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, Reverend Johnson. Okay? So that's a title which goes with the name. It is not your name as such. Excuse me. Continuing, we see that in most cultures are more formal. We had Americans, now most cultures more formal, use family name. Examples we had were Mr. Martinez, Ms. Schultz. Those were examples that were given. And then we hear about Korea, use title with name. Example, Teacher Park or Manager Kim. So those were 2 separate areas. I hope you notice how it's organized. We'll look at that next lecture in more detail. You remember at the beginning of this lecture, the lecture said there would be 4 areas. We did 2 of them just now, greetings and use of names. The next was way to eat. Utensils, and I put there equal what is used. Of course, I didn't have to put to eat, because in note-taking we understand that. We understand it from the context. If we have a lecture about Napoleon, and they say Napoleon was born, I don't have to put Napoleon, I just say born, because the subject. Here the subject of this section is eating, so when you have utensils, it means what is used to eat. The first thing we heard in Asia, they used chopsticks. They didn't give us examples, but I'm sure you know places like Japan and China. Number 2, in the West, the use of the fork, knife, and spoon. Then we had India, or the Arab world, where you can use your hand in eating. So those were different examples of ways to eat. In the second, we heard of how much do you eat, meaning how much on your plate. Egypt, leave some food on plate. Next, we heard about Bolivia. No, there you should eat everything. Here in America, they said also clean plate means you're satisfied. So different customs, different countries. The fourth section was about exchanging gifts. Notice it's enough to write exchange gifts. If you know, you might even write just EXCH if you know what it means. Notes are what you can understand. They are not complete sentences. We heard first in the U.S., if you go for dinner, bring flowers, small gift. Business, no gift for business. We heard about Japanese and other Asians more often. We heard it's more complex. They give gifts. For example, to thank a doctor or a teacher. They have rules for wrapping and the time you present it. Then the final section was things not to give, and we heard that in Iran, it's not good to give yellow flowers. It means you hate the person. Not a good idea unless you really want to get in trouble. So not a good idea to give yellow flowers as a gift in Iran. And finally, we sum up in part 5. All cultures have their own rules. No best, just different. Interesting topic. But remember, your task, when we talk about listening and note-taking, is to get this information down so that we say you can retrieve it again. So if we look at what's in front of you right now, and we said, how do people eat in the East or in Asia? You'd see, chopsticks. You could say they use chopsticks. If you were asked, how should your plate be in America? You see clean plate, and so on. So if you take good notes, easy to retrieve information. Not easy to just remember in a long lecture all of the information. Note-taking, a very important skill, and that's why we're going to spend a whole lecture on it next time. All right, at the bottom we have our discussing the lecture. Explain the rules for greeting in the U.S., Japan, Thailand, and France. Okay, we heard in the U.S. you use touch. You usually handshake if it's formal. If you know the person well, hug. Very close, you might kiss. Japan, no, you are not going to touch. You're going to bow to the person. In Thailand, you're going to do this to the person. And in France, well, there you might kiss the person because it's very common. How do the customs of these countries compare with the customs of your home country or culture? Well, I can't be sure what your home country is, but if it's here, I think you would agree that you do use touch. Usually when you meet a friend, you're going to shake their hand or give them an embrace. If you haven't seen them for a long time, you might kiss. I think that in this sense, probably the Arab world is in the touch area, like Europe. All right, number 2, compare the use of names and titles in the United States and other countries. What advice would you give an American visiting your culture about the proper way to address people? Well, the point made in our lecture was that Americans are very informal. Very quickly, you meet someone, Mr. David Johnson, and people just say Dave, Al, George, and so on. Most other countries are more formal, and I think that's probably true here, that you'd be likely initially, especially if the person is older, person is senior to you, probably you wouldn't use his first name so easily. This may be changing, though. Customs do change. Okay, let's focus your mind and your eyes. Name one or more countries where people do the following. Eat with a knife and fork. Well, people do it here, but it's not the traditional way. Usually we're thinking of European countries when we hear of those, like Germany or France or England and Canada, United States, and so on. Eat with chopsticks. Well, we said that's in Asia. Japan, when you eat your sushi, or if you want to have your egg rolls from China, you're going to use your chopsticks. Eat with their hands, traditionally here in India, I think also probably North Africa, many places. This is also a very traditional way to eat, and probably a very satisfying way to eat. Makes things simple, doesn't it? leave food on their plate to be polite. I don't think that's true here, but we heard that, for example, in Bolivia, I think in some Asian countries, I believe in China and Japan also, it's not polite to eat everything. You leave something to let people know you're done. Otherwise, they'll just keep giving you food. Finish all the food on their plate to be polite. Well, we heard that's true in Bolivia. It's true in America. So many places. I'm not sure about here. You'd have to tell me. Maybe you will in one of our live classes. Restate the examples of gift-giving customs from the lecture. Well, I think you remember that in America, if you visit a home, nice to bring flowers or a small gift, not for business visits, whereas in Japan and Asia, very formal, there you give gifts more readily to your teacher, to your medical doctor, to people like this. So, and also you have to be very careful how you wrap them. So gift giving is very easy in the West as opposed to Asia, where it's a much more developed and formalized affair. All right, reviewing the vocabulary. I think we just did that. So we'll move on with our strategy, graphic organizer, the T-chart. T-charts can help you organize and compare two different sides of a topic. For example, you can compare the advantages and disadvantages of an idea to help you make a decision. So, shall I go on vacation? Shall I not? Put on one side, one side. You can compare facts and opinions. Maybe you have two people or two groups, what their opinions are. Or list the strengths and weaknesses of an idea. You have an idea, this is a good part of it, this is a bad part of it, and so on. So we call this T, I think you see, because T, you have two sides coming down on both sides of it. Now, they give you some situations. What would you do? Read the discussion and discuss the questions. At a party, a friend introduces you to a new friend. You begin talking and discover that the two of you have many opinions and ideas in common. You have such a good time talking that you agree to meet for coffee the following day. In the following weeks, you meet many more times. You get to know each other better. However, there's a problem. Your parents expect you to have friends from the same background, race, religion, education, social class as you. Your new friend comes from a very different background. You know that your parents will be angry if you become close friends. You must make a decision. Will you become his or her good friend, knowing that your parents will disapprove, or will you stop being his or her friend? So what will you do? So what you could do then is to make this type of chart. And what you'd be doing would be decide what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages. Now, why is this pertinent for us? Because note-taking is important. And you notice how when we're talking about different subjects, sometimes we have two different sides. You may remember in the last course we had the advantages and disadvantages, living in a city, living in a town. So you organize it, and that makes it easy then to find your information. You know which side, you know where to look. All right, let's go on now with something about pronunciation. Blending consonants. We talked about blending before. Blend means to go together. When one word ends in a consonant sound and the next word begins with the same consonant sound, the two sounds are blended or pronounced as one sound. There is no pause between the two words. Example, black cat. We don't say black cat, black cat. The k at the end of black and the k at the beginning of cat have been blended into one sound. Now this is very important for you when you're listening and you hear black cat. It's not black cat. You're going to write black cat. Or big girl. We don't say big girl, we say big girl. Big girl. So these are blended. Pronouncing names with blended consonants. Here are some typical English names. Listen and repeat them after the speaker. Blend the consonants so that each name sounds like one word. Are you ready? You can do this on your own now. So repeat. 1. Alan Norton. 2. Pat Thompson. 3. Philip Pearson. 4. Dick Cantor. 5. Brad Davis. 6. Meg Gray. 7. Tom Madison. 8. Peter Ramsey. 9. Val Lewis. 10. Trish Sherman. 11. Cass Saxon. 12. Seth Thayer. I hope you heard the blending there. Now, this was a simple case because here we have exactly the same sound. Sometimes we have similar sounds, a t and a d. That takes a little more exactness. But the important point here is that when you're listening, when you have blended, you have to analyze. So when you hear, for example, his sister, you have to know that we have an S, his sister. We don't say his sister. Huh? His sister. The Z and the S are blended. Huh? You have to be able to analyze that from listening. Huh? That comes from your knowledge of the language. Now, listening for blended consonants. Let's look at the items we have below here. Listen here. Listen to the sentences and circle the blended sounds. Example. Harris saw a fat tiger at the zoo. Notice, Harris saw fat tiger. Huh? So listen if you can hear the blending in each of these items. Yesterday, Yolanda had a really bad day. Day, Yolanda. Day, Yolanda. Day, yeah, okay. And bad day. Number 2, June 9th is the date of Valerie's last test. June 9th. The N is elided or blended. And last test, blended. Number 3, let's save money to buy a car radio. Let's save, huh? It becomes one S. Let's save. So when you hear that, you can't write let's save. You have to write let's save. You have to understand that from your knowledge of the grammar of the language. Number 4, Ron needs a tall ladder to reach that high window. Ron needs tall ladder. Huh? You hear the blended consonants. Number 5, please bring me some hot tea. Now maybe you think it's strange that I put bring and me. They're very similar, both nasals. Bring me. It's not bring me. They're both nasals. Nasals mean sounds like And so if they come together, you only pronounce one of them. Huh? We don't say bring me. It's bring me. Bring me. Okay, got it. Bring me. All right. Number 6, Camille lives in a dangerous city. Now notice a very important point here. The second one, different letters, but that doesn't matter, same sound. City and dangerous, S and C, same sound. We're not concerned here about the letters, we're concerned about the sounds. Huh? The next one, Malik called his mother 8 times. Here again we have a K and a C, but it's the same sound, so it's blended. Malik called his mother 8 times. 8 times. Huh? Blending, something you should be able to recognize. Okay, let's go on to our next exercise. Pronouncing sentences. Circle the blended consonants and mark the linked sounds in the sentences below. Then practice saying these sentences with correct blending, linking, stress, reductions, and intonations. Wow, a lot of things, huh? But believe me, you know this. It's just making you conscious of it is what we're doing now. The air was full of fall leaves, huh? Now, the air, these have been examples of linking. We don't say the air. They're linked, but they're not blended. They're different sounds because we have a vowel and we have a different vowel. Huh? The air, we still have an E and an air, huh? But they are linked. The air was full of love, huh? That's linked. But fall leaves, that's blended. We have one L, same or similar sound. Number 1. We need to cancel our dinner reservations, huh? The circle there, that's blended. R reservations, one R sound, dinner reservations. But cancel our, they're pronounced together, they're linked, but they are not blended. Number 2, I live with 3 roommates. ER, 3 roommates, linked, but roommates. We don't pronounce 2 M's, only 1 M, huh? Roommates. It sounds like roommates, huh? But really it represents room and mates. So you see how they're blended, okay? Number 3, have a good day. Oh my, how did I do that? I didn't, I failed to note. I must do that now in front of you. Yes, these are blended, aren't they? Huh? Have a good day. Have a linked good day, huh? Good day, blended into one sound. Number 4, I don't know her phone number, huh? Phone number, blended. This song is so sad, huh? We have 2 blending. This song, so sad, huh? Is so sad. Now, I said blended. We have a Z and a S. They are similar. It's just a difference of voicing. Next, we're ready to take a walk. We're ready, huh? We don't say we're ready. We have, it's one R sound. We're ready to take a walk. Take a is linked. Did he put his black coat away? Black coat, huh? Becomes black coat. Number 8, she bought an expensive vase. Huh? We have an E, but this final sound is V. So expensive vase. Huh? Vase. Huh? Blending. Very important part of language. This is a matter which you have to center on when you are listening to be able to hear. Now we come to our context. I skipped over the directions because they're always the same, aren't they? All right, now you're going to hear, as always, when we have the context, you hear a short statement or conversation, and you have to choose which one is correct. This is the first, number 1. Harold O'Connor, a professor of English at an American university, invites his students to his home at the end of the semester. He asks them to come at 4 p.m. for coffee and cake. At 3:45, the doorbell rings. He opens the door and is surprised to see several of his Korean students. He sees them standing there. He feels embarrassed. Why did the students arrive at 3:45? They're 15 minutes early. Is it to take off your shoes when you enter the house? Or keep your feet on the... Oh, I'm on the wrong one. So sorry. I made a mistake here. There we are. What a day for mistakes, huh? All right, sorry about that. All is well. Number 1. Why were they wanted to help the professor get ready for the party? They forgot to check their watches? Koreans and Americans have different ideas about arriving on time? Or do parties in the U.S. always start early? Well, the correct choice is C. We would gather from this that Koreans arrived early because in Korea, maybe that's the polite thing is to come early. And so, difference in customs. Now it's time for number 2. You probably noticed that before I did. Number 2 comes after number 1. Number 2. Listen. The feet are the lowest part of the body. For that reason, many people from the Middle East believe it is rude to point your feet at someone or to show the bottoms of your shoes. Some people also think it is impolite to step over someone, for example, at a theater or sports event. Which of the following is probably a good idea if you are a visitor in a Middle Eastern home? Take off your shoes when you enter the house. Keep your feet on the floor. Stand up when your host enters the room. Don't give shoes as a gift in the Middle East. Well, A, of course, we've chosen as the best choice, take off your shoes. Well, you know this from your own experience because we happen to be talking about your custom. Conversation 3. This is different. Americans smile mainly to show friendliness or happiness. In Japan, people smile when they are sad, happy, apologetic, angry, or confused. In traditional Korean culture, smiling meant that a person was foolish or thoughtless. On the island of Puerto Rico, a smile can have many positive meanings, including please, thank you, you're welcome. What can we conclude from these examples? A, Japanese people are friendlier than Americans. Americans smile more than people from other cultures. A smile can have different meanings in different cultures. Or D, a smile has the same meaning in the United States and Puerto Rico. Well, clearly the best choice is C. A smile can have many different meanings. Number 4. In the United States, you can sometimes see old shoes attached to a newly married couple's car. What's the origin of this custom? Some people believe that old shoes can help a couple have many children. Some people even put old shoes in trees that don't give enough fruit. What was this passage mainly about? An old tradition? A way to make trees healthier? How to use old shoes? Couples who have many children. Well, it's a tradition, A tradition and what it means. So we chose A. And finally, number 5. A bribe is an amount of money that someone offers a public official, such as a police officer, to get some kind of special favor or treatment. In some countries, bribes are a normal part of doing business. However, in the United States, bribery is illegal. Question 5. What could happen if you try to bribe a police officer in the United States? A, the officer will disapprove of you. B, you will get special treatment. C, it could help your business. D, you could be arrested. And that's what we chose because we heard it's illegal. So you have some advice there, and it's generally true throughout the Western world, at least in the northern part of the Western world. Yeah, be careful because really people don't think it's a good idea offering money in such cases. Now, generalizing language functions. To speak about your daily routine or typical activities, use the present tense with any of these questions. Generally, in general, typically, normally, most of the time, usually, as a rule, ordinarily. Examples. I wear sandals most of the time, even in winter. I usually speak French or I usually drink French or Colombian coffee for breakfast. Typically, I leave for work at 7:30 a.m. On the next page, you have a reading. This is a listening course, so I can't discuss it with you, so I'm not going to ask you to do that. You're most welcome to read it. It builds on what we're doing, but of course, this is not a reading course. So we come to the last task that we have to do. And strangely enough, our last task is called a trivia quiz. Why do I say strangely? Because trivia means small things. And it has become popular in America and Europe as a game to see what trivia you know. And as they tell you here on the left, you see here the left, they tell you trivia, plural, things that are very unimportant or useless details, little-known facts. And there's a very popular game called trivia, and many derive from it. And so we're going to be doing a trivia quiz. Before you listen, have you ever played a trivia game? With whom did you play? Did you enjoy the game? Why or why not? Did you win? Well, I don't know, but I don't think it's a very probable that you've played it. I don't see it here very much, but if you did, you'll know what we're doing. Do you know anyone who is a trivia expert? Describe that person. Now, a good example would be someone, let's say, who's in football, and let's see, he's a fan of Barcelona, and he knows everything about Barcelona. He knows the team, he knows when they're from. These would be considered trivia, because they're not general knowledge. Everybody knows, but these are specific things he knows, and we call such things trivia. Are you an expert in any topic? How did you get your knowledge or skill? Now, I'm sure many of you out there, have particular areas where you know details. So we call those trivia because for us, they're really very specific and not for general knowledge. Now we're going to do a quiz. This is for listening, but I hope you'll find it interesting. Here we have page 145 here, taking a trivia quiz. Now you're going to hear some people talking, and as we go along, you should try to choose what you think is the right answer, and then you'll hear what is the correct answer, and you'll find out whether you made the right guess or not. Taking a trivia quiz. Kevin. Hey, Joyce, what are you doing? Joyce. I was just reading the paper. Oh, here's another one of those trivia quizzes that you love to take, Kevin. Kevin. What's it about? Joyce. The title is Global Connections. It's about transportation and communication around the world. Want to try it? Kevin. Sure. Joyce. Okay, first question. Which country has the largest number of time zones? The United States, Canada, Russia, or China? Well, what did you think? The correct choice is Russia, and that's what Kevin says. That's easy. Russia. Joyce? Right, okay, second question. Which country is the most popular tourist destination in the world? Is it France, the United States, Italy, or China? Kevin says, France. Joyce says, right again. Go, Kevin. Okay, next. Oh, this one's hard. This region has 12.5% of the world's population and 29% of the world's internet users. Okay? Not a lot of people, but a lot of internet users. Is it North America, Europe, Latin America, or the Middle East? Kevin. Let me think. Okay, I guess the Middle East. Joyce? Wrong. It's Europe. Kevin. Okay, keep going. Joyce. All right, number 4. Looks like another computer question. Which of the following countries has the largest actual number of internet users? The choices are China, the U.S., Russia, or Canada. Kevin. Well, not Canada. Canada has a small population compared to its size. I'll say the United States. Joyce? Right. Good job. Kevin. Thanks. I hope the next question is easier. Joyce. Let's see. Number 5. How many hours does it take to fly from New York to Cairo? 5 hours, 8 hours, 11 hours, or 15 hours? Kevin. Wow, I have no idea. I think it's about 6 hours to London, so it's more than that. How about 8 hours? Joyce? No, 11. Kevin? Okay, what's next? Joyce. Which of the following countries has the largest number of daily newspapers? Mexico, Russia, England, or Greece? Kevin. I'm sure it's England. Joyce. Wrong. It's Mexico. Kevin. No kidding. I wonder why. Okay, next. Joyce. Number 7. The most frequently used language on the internet is English. Which language is second? German, Spanish, Japanese, or Chinese? Kevin. Wow, that's a tricky question. I'm going to say Chinese. Joyce? Yes. Kevin. Actually, I wasn't sure if it was Chinese or Japanese. Joyce. Well, you got it right. Do you want to keep going? Yeah, one more. Then we can eat. Joyce. Okay, question 8. Which city has the longest subway system? Moscow, New York, Tokyo, or London? Kevin. London for sure. Yeah, Joyce, you're right. Kevin, yeah, I studied in London last summer, and I took the underground everywhere. So what's my score? Joyce, 5 right and 3 wrong. Not too bad. Kevin, yeah, but not great either. All right, let's eat. I'm starving. So we finish this book on the note of eating. But let's have a look at some of these nice places, these nice connections they show us here. Maybe you recognize some of these nice places to go. Choosing your dream vacation. Here we have up there, I think that's Disney World up there. And we have a nice ocean island there someplace. Maybe Mauritius, who knows. Maybe Indonesia. I'm sure you see here the Great Wall of China. You see Paris with the Eiffel Tower. You see here a beautiful waterfall. Could be many places, maybe Japan, India. And of course, last but not least, the pyramids of Egypt. And maybe some of you have seen some of these things. All right, that ends our work. All of these different subjects we've had, different customs. Here we had a trivia quiz because it shows us again how things are different in different parts of the world. What I'm most concerned about is that you have enjoyed and you have benefited from these various units that we have done. Now there are 2 review units left, and the next review unit will be about note-taking, and the final one will be about all the other exercises that we have done. So, in conclusion to the 6 units, I want to thank you for your attention and wish you every success, and please let me know if there's anything I can explain for you. Thank you very much.